guys remember the Rocky and Bullwinkle show? For someone who falls sort of somewhere in the middle of the millennial generation like me, it can pop up like this distant memory from a time long forgotten.
A simpler time when some of the strangest TV shows used to creep up on you during late night television.
And as you probably have guessed, the Rocky and Bullwinkle show was one such program.
Time now for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends.
They may not be relevant today, but they're always there in the back of our minds. Watching. But apart from Rocky and Bullwinkle and their misadventures with bomb-wielding communists, you also had other cartoons in the mix, such as Fractured Fairy Tales, Peabody's Impossible History, and Dudley Do-Right.
So yes, immediately there's an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. So get the fuck out of here!
As late as 2014, there's an animated movie called Peabody and Sherman, which, to my understanding, got a resounding meh from audiences. But even before that, in the year 2000, when the machines took over and placed us in a mass simulation of what we think is the world today, they made a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, which bombed harder than the Manhattan Project.
Well, doesn't that suck? Poor J. Ward Productions can't catch a break when it comes to getting their decades-old cartoons onto the silver screen. It's like they've all but been forgotten.
But really, we should have seen this all coming before the year 2000. And no, I don't mean the machine uprising. I mean the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons flopping as a movie industry.
That's right. 1 year before making the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, their first attempt at reviving the franchise was with this. Dudley Do-Right, the movie, which, according to the back of the box, Roger Ebert called fun. That's pretty interesting. You know, it's purely speculation on my part, but I'm pretty sure the original quote would have been more like, getting a reach around from a porcupine with leprosy would have been more fun. Again, just speculation.
So once upon a time in Canada, there unfolded a tale of heroes and villains.
Once upon a time in Canada, there unfolded a tale of heroes and villains.
Hey, what the? Oh, this movie has a narrator.
Well, alright. That makes my job a lot easier.
Much like in the original cartoon shorts, the movie uses a narrator to explain the setting and develop the actions of the characters.
The torpedo was fired into the submarine. That's when the highest-ranking officer in the Canadian Navy stepped into the yard.
A formula that works great for a 5-minute cartoon, but almost seems like cheating for a feature-length film, don't you think?
While the evil Whiplash was out hunting vampires, our hero was at home, hiding behind a cardboard Mountie cutout.
Then again, I can't say I expected to go into this movie to see top-notch writing. So we get a brief introduction to the man who needs no introduction, Dudley Do-Right, played by Brendan Fraser. Oh no, that can't be a good sign.
Interestingly enough, Fraser also played the title role in George of the Jungle, which was another adaptation of a J. Ward cartoon. That came out 2 years before this movie, and was also a critical failure. You'd think they would have learned their lesson at some point.
But you know what? It's all good. We've got the incredible acting chops of Alfred Molina, better known for his role as Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2, and Satipo in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Adios, señor.
In all seriousness, though, the casting for the villains of all villains, Snidely Whiplash, was freaking spot on.
Shane?
Yes, Mr. Whiplash.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
Now, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
Yes, sir.
I will be safely across the border. You too will be crossing the border at a much higher altitude.
So just like in the main cartoons, our main plot is driven by Whiplash's evil scheme, and they pulled out all the stops for their film adaptation. This time, his nefarious plot is to shoot gold into mines. Well, that's weird. Next, we get the famous bit of him tying someone to the railroad tracks. But instead of Dudley's love interest, Nell, we get a banker.
All right. I'll sign. All the bank's mortgages are yours.
Tell her to be named later.
So we're only a few minutes into this movie, and already Whiplash has won the deeds to every establishment in town. Meanwhile, our hero Dudley has been doing this.
Hey, let's put fart jokes in our kids' movies. That way everyone will laugh and we don't even have to attempt to be funny.
Snidely shows up randomly at Dudley's place to scare off Horse. Again, his actions are severely lacking motivation right now. Even in the cartoon, he had a plan for all the mischief. It's okay though, because Horse comes back in the very next scene. Oh, no, wait. That's Sarah Jessica Parker playing Dudley's longtime crush, Nell.
I can prove it too, because only a vampire would know the answer to this simple Canadian question. What is Wayne Gretzky's middle name?
Well, I don't know, Dudley.
Ha-ha!
Oh yeah, this movie does take place in Canada. You know, I'm actually really impressed we've gotten this far without somebody saying A while chopping down trees and playing hockey and spending all their loonies and toonies while drinking maple syrup, eating bacon, and calling people hosers and moose. Man, where's Bob and Doug McKenzie when you need them?
Nell had been traveling abroad, for whatever reason, and has now come back to see Dudley, who slapsticks his way into confessing his feelings to her.
Nell, I love you.
Though she had traveled far and wide, never before had Nell heard a confession of love from a moose.
Though they do often mistake her for their own.
After finding the nearest moose head removal service, Dudley and Nell made their way to the Corn Festival.
Wait a minute. Corn Festival? Does that mean... Oh no, 90s movie Native Americans.
Now, Fenwick, you look terrific. How's it going?
Me do well.
Ooh, it's getting really warm in here.
Here we get a sexy river dance show.
Yeah, I said river dance, you know, as in Irish.
That serves no other purpose than to stretch the movie's runtime. Well, that and I guess to poke more fun at the idea of Italians playing natives.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chief, I think you're straight out of your friggin' mind.
Me or him? Me.
Hey, none of that. Stop that.
We get another piece of the puzzle that is Snidely's long con when a prospector played by Eric Idle? But why, Eric Idle? You're a Yorkshireman, for Christ's sakes. What are you doing acting in a movie with these chuckle fucks?
I had to get up in the morning at 10 o'clock at night, half an hour before I went to bed, eat a lump of cold poison, work 29 hours a day down mill and pay mill owner for permission to come to work, and when we got home, our dad would kill us and dance about in our grave, singing hallelujah.
Well, Snidely makes the gold prospector, played by Eric fucking Idle, famous for striking gold in their little town, and gets him to appear on the Regis and Kathy Lee show.
I just can't wrap my head around this right now. I'm watching a live-action adaptation of a cartoon from the 60s that takes place in Canada, and one of the scenes has Eric Idle talking to Regis and Kathy as a gold prospector. What?
If you can wrap your head around that madness, it now becomes clear that Snidely planted the gold and bought the whole town in order to turn it into a tourist attraction for people trying to strike it rich. Which leads to this terrifying scene.
Trouble along the Canadian-U.S. border continues to mount.
They seem to be yuppie wetbacks mostly.
Whoa, wait. What did you just say?
They seem to be yuppie wetbacks mostly.
The fuck, movie? I mean, it doesn't even make sense, but still.
Yuppie wetbacks.
Yuppie wetbacks. You did it, movie. You did it.
Meanwhile, the narrator steals the show,
And a place to prove that white men can dance.
and Dudley has a dream about horse and the generic Windows desktop background.
Am I the only one who sees the similarities here? I mean, I guess they had to take the picture somewhere.
Oh, and Snidely sends one of his goons to blow up Dudley's house. Seems kind of out of character for Snidely to go this far and then actually attempt to kill Dudley, but then again, he always wanted to see a good train accident. But while Snidely was celebrating Dudley's demise, Dudley was actually in Ottawa.
While Snidely celebrated Dudley's demise, Dudley was actually in Ottawa.
Damn you, narrator!
So yeah, Dudley goes to
Ottawa, telling the authorities about Snidely's evil scheme.
Thank you. And we get to where, in my opinion, this movie starts to actually get decent.
See, part of the charm of the Dudley Do-Right cartoons, and yes, I did think and still do think the cartoons had charm, was its play on cliche storytelling. I mean, the hints in the name. The righteous Mountie named Dudley Do-Right and the bad guy named Snidely Whiplash.
This all goes back to old school cinema, the concept of Dudley Do-Right coming straight from the black and white Mountie films from the early 20s. Back when the good guys always got the girl, and the bad guys were always foiled. And not to mention pretty fucking terrifying. Back in those days, the stories were, for the most part, pretty clear-cut. But now we have a movie with the typical bad guy versus good guy that turns everything on its head. See, the higher up that Dudley and the Italian talk to in Ottawa brings up how, technically, Snidely hasn't done anything wrong. He's strengthened a community and saved its economy. Dudley, whose entire existence revolves around his battle against evil, realizes it's no longer as black and white as those old films. He's now a do-gooder in a world where there is no absolute evil. He's no longer needed. He's a cliche. He comes back home to find his house blown up and the inspector there to relieve him of his duty. His identity now completely gone and left alone in a world run by a man he had only known as a wrongdoer.
You know, the line between right and wrong is oftentimes difficult to discern.
Yeah, basically that. Man, this movie and I, we're on really similar brainwaves. And it scares me.
So now the cosmic balance has changed. Snidely is a guy doing good, and loved by all. So, what's a do-right to do? Well, do wrong, obviously. This includes having a training montage. Of course. Complete with stupid slapstick. It also means we need a dance sequence. Of course.
It is now! I can't believe that this is happening to me!
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to mention during my whole good guy versus bad guy rambling, Snidely stole Nell away from Dudley as well.
Meanwhile, Whiplash had begun his evil campaign to win the affections of the fair Nell Fenwick and to impress her father. Let us hope they can see right through this scheming cad. Sorry.
So what do you know? She does have a purpose to the story. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the face of Eric Idle when he realized his career hit an all-time low.
Did he just call me a carny lover?
And finally, after all the pointless scenes, we see Dudley become a cold-blooded Canadian badass. And thank you to whoever was in charge of the soundtrack by not putting Born to Be Wild here. My god, is that song overplayed in shitty kids' movies.
Down the highway, looking for adventure.
Just trust me, it's a lot.
Dudley crashes a quaint get-together by Snidely to win Nell's love, where there's a bad guy string quartet.
Okay, alright, well that right there, that's pretty funny.
Nell, you'll always think of me as wearing black, won't you?
Oh, I don't know, Snidely.
Man, Nell is not hard to please. And really, I find it hard to understand Dudley's motivation here. Nell has been mostly cold to him, and as soon as she saw Snidely, she immediately abandoned him. But whatever, anything to move the plot along, I guess.
Damn you! Damn you all to hell.
The Steppenwolf gods have betrayed me. Oh look, more racially insensitive dance numbers. I was wondering when we got to see one of these again.
Dudley!
No.
I love you now and I always have.
You really do now?
Yeah, despite the epic topiary art and making dramatic entrances on a motorbike, Dudley had to dance around half naked in a bird costume to finally win Nell's flighty affection. The hell, Nell? For Snidely it took a kiss to get you to ride off with him, but Dudley had to ruin his acting integrity for you to swoon over him?
Though Nell had witnessed many examples of our hero's daring do, it took a dance number to convince her.
You shut the fuck up, narrator.
When I'm calling you.
When I'm calling you.
Dudley?
Yeah, so Dudley and Nell have this weird callback song that they do throughout the movie, and at its surface it doesn't seem to hold any purpose whatsoever, other than, I suppose, to portray their feelings for each other, I guess. But doing some research, I actually found out that this song is called the Indian Love Call from an operetta known as Rose Marie. And once you know it, it takes place in good old Canada. So there's your connection, if you were even curious. Don't act like you weren't, though. Excuse me for a second.
At our film's climax, Snidely storms the native shore where Dudley and Nell have been hiding out, and the natives make like Ewoks and shoot fireworks and throw rocks at Whiplash's men. Oh, hello, Indiana Jones Boulder. Horse finally comes back and really makes you wonder why they decided to have Horse run away in the first place. Honestly, his showing up right now isn't even that convenient. Except for when the Indian chief gets too tired to run away from Whiplash's men.
I thought Native North Americans could run all day.
Oh, yeah, like we're really Indians.
We're not leaving without you.
No, you guys go without me. Go!
Wait, they aren't gonna have him get on the horse? The horse is right freaking there! Get on the horse! Well, I guess they were saving the horse for Dudley, so he can ride like a badass towards Snidely's tanks. Much like a famous archaeologist. And look, more Mounties. Well, typical to any movie, the good guys win, and the bad guys lose.
I'm surprised the narrator didn't stick around to explain all that.
No, I'm still here. Someone's got to explain where the cavalry came from.
Nope. Allow me.
After teaching Dudley the ways of the bad, Eric Idle had left to go look for his family that he had been estranged from. Turns out, his wife is the Prime Minister. Turns out, she called the cavalry. Turns out, good things happen to good people.
And bad things happen to bad people.
Dudley becomes a Mountie again, gets the girl, and we even end on more fart humor.
Again, can't say I understand the point of having Horse in the movie. I mean, in the cartoon he was like a main character pretty much, but then why have him be gone for more than half the film?
So Dudley could ride around on a motorbike? Was this motorbike company responsible for funding this movie? Will I ever stop asking dumb questions about the bike?
Don't miss our next episode of Punch in the Snoot or The Nose Tattoo.
So that's Dudley Do-Right, a movie based on a cartoon that was based around the cliches of the old silent film era.
Honestly, it's hard to take this movie seriously when clearly even the filmmakers didn't try that hard to do so. You can tell a lot of fun was put into making it. A lot of cheesy gags, stupid jokes, ridiculous performances, but of course that doesn't necessarily make for a good movie, and is a common formula you see in kids' movies from back in this day.
I guess this is just that part of the 90s still, where kids' movies back in the day were innocent, and were probably well enjoyed by kids at the time, but now that we've all grown up, we can't help but look back and see these movies for the cinematic pieces of dog shit they really are.
It's weird seeing this movie as a kid and probably just stupidly enjoying the slapstick and fart jokes, and watching it now as an adult and seeing a bad movie with some actual potential. The dynamic between good and evil. What makes a man good? What makes him bad? Does doing a bad thing with good intentions make it good? If a bad man does good, is he still bad? These are the philosophical questions this movie touches upon ever so slightly. Then the horse farts.
Good night, everybody.